So started Mandara as soon as I came back from Nilbag, about 1977 or 8, 1978 I think, and we registered it as a society. With David also was one of the trustees, and we had a group of friends. We were all part of the trust. I was my director, and we set up a team for working with children and also looking at some research studies, looking at documentation, looking at helping adults, field activists, teachers. So a lot of different areas we felt were needed at that time. So we set it up for that, and we gathered people who were interested. We felt that we needed to review our work, and ActionAid also wanted me to join them. So I also felt that if a review is done first and then I can go to ActionAid, that would be better both for ActionAid and for Mandara. So ActionAid invited Sharada Jain from Jaipur. She was working then based in Jaipur, and invited her to do an evaluation of Mandara. Sharada ji, good afternoon. We met in 1984 when you first came to do the Mandara evaluation. Yeah. So, can you talk about how that perhaps influenced your work in Rajasthan, and not only your work, but the others also?
I think, Amukta, it's an absolute delight to see you again. Of course, we've been meeting, but as a professional work, I think Mandara evaluation was my first entry into this line, and it has really influenced a lot of work that I have done. And I'm so glad that we are here today to again take stock of what we have learned and how it can help us now. So I'd be very happy to share as to...
I brought this book file which was given to me. Oh. Would you like to sign it?
Yeah, this is, that's kind of typewriter we had. And where do you want me to sign? I think here? Yeah. Oh.
Okay, there also.
Here? Okay. I think it doesn't. Yeah, I won't write the date. So it was, for me, it was quite an eye-opener that there was something like this going on at Mandara. And this was the first evaluation that I had ever done, 1984. And I didn't know how to wrap it up. I was actually quite nervous about the whole exercise. But when I came back, the person who was very highly influenced by this exercise was ANIL BORDIA. See, I was trying to wrap up things and clean up some of the writings and whatever at home, and he came and read each page. And we were working on WDP, which was an absolutely novel program in Rajasthan. And I feel out of all the work that I have done, that was a unique program. And he was trying to work out as to how this evaluation can help him design that and also to management of that exercise. Because two things he was very conscious about, being aware of the fact that you need to be listening to others whereas for a program coming from the government, you tell others. So the whole thing had to be reversed. So one non-negotiable, he said, I will remember every day, is that Mandara has taught us that it's most important to listen to them and then think of what can be done, but that also should come from them. So the statement which he made was, can we evolve a program or an approach in which they can plan for themselves? So we have to plan to let them plan. Now that was a total reversal. I was getting very clear from your experience that you needed some power structure to protect you. You were very vulnerable at that time and you were constantly thinking of your dreams, whereas the reality was something which was being controlled by multiple factors. So what we learned in WDP was that you need a tripod, you know, like this thing with 3 legs. One was a dreamer, and one was the structure which the government should have, and one a critical input of research which should go hand in hand. So these 3 should go together in any innovation, and we must go at a pace which is actually governed by the people, not at the pace at which the government wants. But you want the government, so you see, you had completely overlooked the government. So the structures have to come from the government. That is what we learned. And also I think it was very clear that the context in which people spoke was very crucial, because if we try to understand their words from where we are standing, we will find everything wrong. So we had to first get into that kind of context. I remind you of a very interesting incident which happened with your teachers with whom I had a workshop, and we were recollecting. So I asked them a very stupid question, which I think now it is very stupid. I said, supposing you had lots of money, supposing you had no fear, supposing you were given power, what would you like to do in the school? So 1 or 2 persons were cautious. They thought the question was silly, but still they would answer. But the third teacher got very angry with me. He says, I don't want to respond. So I said, what's wrong with it? He said, why are you insisting on things which will never happen and you get us to think that? It's all wrong on your part. So he gave me hell. Prabha. Yes, you remember that? He gave me hell. And I think it was a very right thing to do, because that's how I learned, that we say that we are listening to you, but we are constantly dictating. We are constantly putting this or that on them. So that was very, very important. WDP to date is the one which learned maximum from the work that we did, because it was Aruna who was a dreamer, it was your work which was there. I was from the research side and Anil BORDIA was from the government side. So we made a team in which monies had to be minimized so that the government doesn't come and control it. And I wanted to make sure that research should not be published all over, because then people will be coming and asking for what is happening. So I was keeping very low profile, not giving papers in APW, not giving, and everybody said, what kind of a researcher you are? They were very, they were very disappointed with my work. They said, if you're a researcher, you don't follow that game. And you are not an activist, but you are always with the activists. So we had a razor's path, which is razor's edge, that you are neither an activist nor a real classical researcher, but somewhere running on a path which is yet to be made smoother for future to come, which has over the years much has happened. But I think,
and WDP was a forerunner for Mahila Samakya.
It was forerunner for Mahila Samakya, and people in Mahila Samakya needed that kind of rewinding. Why did it? You see, we had that Sati case in which the women took charge of the whole movement, and I remember 3 or 4 ministers from Delhi were sent by Rajiv Gandhi to participate in this, because it was an amazing thing. And those ministers wanted to go up to the dais, and I had stopped them because I said, this is led by them, so we are all sitting on the floor. So the ministers had to sit with us. And then the journalists really thought it was an absolute delight for them. So they went and said, how do you like being treated like this? You are not going on the dais. So, so it was an amazing experience. But Mandara experience was really a training ground for me. And with me, the group that we formed, it really worked out very well. But it was a sad thing that you had to. What did you do after that?
I joined ActionAid.
Yeah.
Because ActionAid wanted the education program to come into all their programs.
Yeah, ActionAid wanted, but it wanted planning, it wanted systems, it wanted predictability, and it wanted to support innovation. So all these combined things had to be navigated in various forms, but I think very difficult task. You had to shift from ActionAid also.
Yeah, in ActionAid we brought in more structure, but in a sense there that NGO climate was like that at that time.
Yes.
Anti-government, anti-this, anti-that, you know.
It was more anti than creative.
Creative, yeah.
It was not like, see, another thing which we learnt, that if you want a change, it has to have a support structure, and the support structure has to have power. So you can't wish away the government and take it as an enemy. So you have to find friends within the system to be able to change the system. You cannot change the system. This humility had to come to us in a hard way, that the partners, of course we were very sad when the partners took charge of this and went and presented it in Geneva, when they said, we have done this, and we said they haven't done it, but we kept quiet, because we knew that unless they are the partners, this whole thing will have no protection whatsoever. तो आपके वातावरण में दोस्त होने चाहिए जो सिस्टम में हैं, and they were that climate was very important.
Yeah. I also learned from that, in a sense of going to the government, and then after some years we did a lot of work with the government.
Yeah, because you learned primarily from your training, which was with David, how to creatively handle a situation of deprivation and then how to convert it into power. So that was your primary, and which we envied a lot. We said you had the great privilege of doing that, and
also with teachers.
With teachers.
Working with the field activists and teachers.
So that was very important. My, in a way, regret was that in my work initially, I did not take Indian intellectual tradition very seriously. And in education, that was our folly, because we, in our kind of activism, it was again some anger against what has made the Dalits the way they are, why has the power structure made them into such, some have-nots of all kinds.
So how do you think we should bring that in?
Yeah, I think it is, actually we have to reinterpret our strengths. And this, us and them won't do. It would be strengths, which is for everybody. And I have to be thankful to Professor Daya Krishna, who taught me to re-look at our texts, the classical texts, as well as Western texts, as well as actions. So he prescribed a syllabus for honors and postgraduate, in which the students didn't read the interpreters, but they read the originals. So I was asked to teach Indian philosophy to the honors group, and he said, teach it the way you think things should be taught. So I looked at the classical text of 𝒂𝒊𝒑𝒑𝒍𝒐𝒓, which was one of the oldest documents, and with my primitive knowledge of Sanskrit, I was also relying on the text, and it really is a very big education. I must share with you the myth that was taught to us as the people who struggled against Britain, that in India the guru means the final word and you can never question. When I looked at 𝒂𝒊𝒑𝒑𝒍𝒐𝒑, the whole karika begins with a question, from the Shishya, from asking the Guru to answer. So one thing which we learned is that learning has to begin from the one who wants to learn. This was a very major theorem. So, and this in Sanskrit they said जिज्ञासा, जब तक ज्ञान की इच्छा नहीं है तब तक तो ज्ञान के पास भी नहीं है आप. तो उसने पूछा सवाल, ही आस्क्ड एज टू कि संसार में दुख क्यों है, हम दुखी क्यों होते हैं, वाई इज़ देयर सफरिंग. नाउ दैट वाज अ क्लासिकल बुद्धिस्ट क्वेश्चन, बट ही आस्क्ड दिस कि आप मुझे डोंट गिव मी द ओरिजिन, जस्ट गिव मी द आंसर कि इसको दूर कैसे करें. नाउ दैट्स अ रेलेवेंट क्वेश्चन. इफ़ यू आर इन पेन, यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू बी बॉदर्ड कि ये कैसे शुरू हुआ, क्या हुआ. यू आर बॉदर्ड कि पहले इसको हटाओ, तो दुख कम करो. तो ये 3 प्रकार के दुख हैं, बहुत तरह से एनालाइज्ड हैं. द स्टूडेंट सेड टू द गुरु, आई डोंट वांट द एनालिसिस, आई वांट टू गेट रिड ऑफ इट. सो ही सेड द ओनली आंसर इज ज्ञान. देन द शिष्य गेट्स इवन मोर एंग्री. ही सेड इफ आई हैव अ थॉर्न इन माय फुट, what will Gyan do? I want it to be removed. If I am hungry, there is no food in the house, I want money, I want food, I don't want to have the Gyan. Then the Guru comes out with the real theorem कि वो एकांतिक और आत्यंतिक आपको मुक्ति नहीं देगा. ये कांटा निकाल दूंगा तो दूसरा कांटा नहीं लगेगा, ये नहीं होगा. और आपको अभी थोड़े पैसे दे देंगे कि आप खाना ले आओ तो आपको बाद में कमी नहीं होगी, ये नहीं होगा. तो in the final analysis, you will have to have knowledge. Now, knowledge of what? Now, knowledge of what appears the relevant area that you can go to. Then from there you can go to a further area. Then you can go, your own competence becomes more, it can go more. So the message that was coming through was that there can be no teaching unless there is learning, and there can be no learning unless there is a desire to learn. And the teacher has to follow the desire and the capacity to be allowing more learning. So to open out and to seek knowledge. You learn to seek knowledge rather than being given knowledge. So that comes from our text. Then I found almost all Indian texts. The second part in Indian intellectual tradition which has impressed me a tremendous lot, and which I think can help all of us, is that if they found something wrong in what you were saying, and if I had to counter it, then I have to first formulate what you are saying. So I have to first get into your framework, articulate your framework, get approval from you कि हाँ हम ये कह रहे हैं, then come and counter it. So you can't be ignorant of what they are saying unless it comes to you, and you can understand it only when you see from their context, their point of view. So this is a classical tradition which if we follow, see for almost 8-9 centuries India had 6, 7, 8, 9 traditions in which they were constantly in dialogue. But now we cannot dialogue with anybody who is not in our framework. We use only, हमारी भाषा जब तक नहीं बोलेगा हम उसकी बात नहीं उसको जाने दो, वो नहीं समझता, वो बेवकूफ़ है. So that part is, I mean, when a child says that, look, I think this book is no good, I don't want to read this, then you can't say that you are saying it wrong. Why can't you, why is this wrong? So I have to be the child and formulate as to why I am finding it wrong. वो कहते एक word ही नहीं समझ में आता मुझे, क्या बोलते हैं, क्या नहीं करते हैं. Then we understood that actually when we had to experiment, you know, एक और sentence है बहुत अच्छा कि बिना उदाहरण के, बिना अभ्यास के कोई सिद्धांत नहीं होता. तो यू कैन, बुद्धिग्राह्य नहीं होता. आप दृष्टांत दो तो सिद्धांत समझ आएगा, आप दृष्टांत दो तो सिद्धांत समझ आएगा.